Today we want to show you some examples of what you can actually do for your lower abdominal area. The lower abdominal area, we can say, is everything kind of below the belly button. This area, just to simplify, actually has really thin fascia, and is actually a very weak area in regard to the upper abdominals. Most people that have low back problems, disc problems, neck pain, respiratory issues, nerve entrapments, it's a lot of times because they're overdoing crunches. When you overdo crunches in the position that most people do them, you're only working the abdominals that are above the belly button. This depresses the rib cage, and it creates a posture kind of like this, a forward head posture, a kyphosis, which can basically cause constipation, it can cause back problems, respiratory issues, make you look like you get saggy boobs if you're a guy and a girl, neck problems, headaches, on and on and on. Some of the examples that you see people do in the gym are things like this. They do this woodpecker type crunch. You're only working the upper abdominals because you're only coming up a quarter of the range of motion.
Or they're holding their heads.
Other things they do is they hold their heads. Their heads, like we have two, they're holding their head, which actually creates an imbalance in the flexion and extensor chain. A lot of times, most people only work in this small range of motion, like Jeannie just showed you. A lot of people don't do a complete sit-up. So they hold their legs, and she does a complete sit-up. Most people don't work in that range of motion most of the time. So to really isolate the lower abdominals, now, we're recommending this basically, it's a YouTube video. So we're not saying everyone should be doing this. There's people that actually shouldn't be. Make sure you've been assessed by a practitioner. If you have a history of low back pain or current low back pain, don't do this. But for people that have had episiotomies, everyone that has that pooch belly, whether you're a guy or a girl, urinary frequency and things like that, this is a great program to actually work the lower abdominal area, which is once again everything below the belly button. It's actually innervated by a different system than above the belly button. So what we're going to show you next is an easy system that you can do. What we usually do with people, it's hard to say exactly how many reps that you should do and things like that because everyone's different. But a good rule of thumb is you could probably do it about, I would say, 5 days a week initially, the first week.
If you're doing it 5 days a week, you want to be doing it in small repetitions because of the fascia is a thinner fascia, so it can create a lot of inflammation. So you don't want to start off balls to the wall, you want to take it easy and progress yourself.
Another rule of thumb, she mentioned inflammation. If you do have your cycle and you have inflammation, don't do it. Most people initially, the first week, we have them do it every single day for 10 reps. So one set for 10 reps, you'll see we'll do the rectus abdominis, lower abdominals, you'll see this in the video. We'll actually isolate the internal oblique and the external oblique, and then we'll integrate them. So you'll see 4 different exercises. So we do 10 reps of each. The second week, you can go to 20 reps of each. The third week, you can go to 30 reps of each. And the fourth week, you can go to 40 reps of each. Now, as the reps go up, we usually vary the amount of days based on the person we're working with. So it's hard to say that you should be doing it every day, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, something like that. So as you go up in reps, as the weeks go on, you might, based on who you are, do it 3 times a week, or 4 times a week, or 7 times a week. Who knows? So what we're going to show you next, unless Jeannie has something to add in, is actually how to do this program. It's based off the work of Guy Voyer, an osteopath out of Canada and France. It's great stuff. And if you have any questions, please contact us, Jeannie or myself at the office, to ask questions about how to do this and how to do it appropriately. Key point on all these, you always want the arms overhead on every single one of them. I'm not going to repeat that on every one. Elbows need to be above the shoulders. The head needs to be neutral like Jeannie has, and your eyes always need to be looking towards your belly button. This helps to actually create a neutral spine in the lower back based on ligamentous connections. So those are very key points. Always inhaling through the mouth, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth on every rep. You always want to keep your toes up, so if you can see Jeannie's toes, her toes are lifted towards her knees, okay? So those are some key points that you want to do in every single exercise. The first one is the rectus abdominis below the belly button. You're basically going to raise your knees towards the ceiling and down. Exhale on the way up, inhale on the way down. Exhale through the mouth, inhale through the nose. Now, basically what Jeannie's doing is she's driving her knees towards the ceiling. For a lot of people, this is tough. The pelvis and the sacrum are coming up slightly off the ground. Now, for a lot of people, this is challenging. So initially, if you have to do a slight rock to get that motion, that's fine. But as the days or weeks go by, you just want to raise the knees straight towards the ceiling and down. Once again, 10 to 40 reps. The next one is for the external obliques. Same arm placement. This time you're going to cross the leg over the opposite one. So now we're going to work the left external oblique. The external obliques are like pockets on your rib cage that you can put your arm in. What you want to do is drive that left knee across the body towards the ceiling. So it's going at an angle across the body, not straight up, using those lower abdominal fibers of the external oblique. And I'll try to get a different angle so you can kind of see it. So I don't know if you can tell, her toes are lifted, exhaling on the way up, inhaling on the way down, knee across the body. You do 10 to 40 reps on both sides. Next is the internal oblique. It's the same position. The difference is now, instead of driving that knee across the body, you're going to use the right knee and drive it straight towards the ceiling. Same arm placement, same breathing pattern, eyes towards the belly button, toes are lifted. So if you can see that right knee, she's driving that right knee towards the ceiling. Where before she's driving the left leg across the body for the external oblique. This is the right internal oblique for the basically abdominals below the belly button. You're isolating those. Once again, you do 10 to 40 reps on both sides over a 1 to 4 week period. So the last one is to integrate the internal and external obliques in the frontal plane. You're going to put your bottom arm over your head for support. The top arm is going to come down with the elbow bent to support you, to anchor the upper body so you can actually isolate the internal and external obliques below the belly button. Now what you want to do, most people will actually lift their legs. Now you want to bend your knees enough to the point where the spine is basically neutral. So if you bring your knees too far up, your back's going to flatten. You can feel it. It's going to almost be like a convex spine. If your knees are not bent enough or up enough, it's going to be too lordotic, and you'll feel in the low back it's going to feel very concave. So you want your knees up enough to the point where it doesn't feel too convex or too concave. It's neutral. Same thing, eyes always looking towards the belly button, toes up. Now what a lot of people do in this, they just lift their legs, or they'll actually go to lift their legs and separate them, right? That's showing a dominance in the glutes or adductors where we don't want to see them. So put a pad of paper or something in between the knees to keep that locked in so you isolate the internal and external oblique. Same thing, 10 to 40 reps over a 4 week period. Now I'm going to move around here. Jeannie's anchoring her upper body. And what she's doing with the lower body, I'll come around here so you can see it, is she's lifting everything as best as she can off the mat. Right? So we're seeing that she has a little bit of weakness in those internal and external obliques below the belly button. Everything from the hips, right here, up should come off the ground. And the upper body is actually anchored on the ground. So over that 4 week period, hopefully you can progress to that point. Last but not least is you want to stretch the psoas myofascially. Based on who you work with, this might be contraindicated, but based off Guy Voyer's work, he always says after normalizing the abdominal chain, you always want to stretch the psoas as it actually connects fascially to all the abdominals. You want to bring it back to its normal resting length. You want to be in a lunge position. You'll do both sides. First order of sequence is you want to make sure the back foot is internally rotated, or just bring the toes to the inside of the body. You want to drive the heel towards the ground and the toes to the inside of the body. Next order of sequence is you want to basically contract the glutes to create what's called a posterior tilt. You don't want to shift forward. You just want to squeeze the glutes to create a posterior tilt. I'll come around. The third order of sequence is head neutral, belly button towards, eyes towards the belly button. You want to side flex to the opposite side you're stretching. So on this one, she's stretching the right psoas, so she's going to side flex to the left. Then she's going to rotate towards the side she's flexing, slight rotation. Yeah. And last but not least, she's going to bring her hands out in front of her, reach, extend the wrist, and internally rotating, bringing the pinkies together. Holding that for 20 to 30 seconds, you do both sides, 1 to 2 reps. To come out of it, release the hands, the arms, release the rotation and the side flexion, the glutes, and the foot.